too. So I would let him go from there.
Thank you. Just real quick, Dr. Yakubu, I would
You're muted, Ian.
Sorry. Dr. Yakubu, I'd just like to ask, what are your thoughts on calls to decentralize the security structure in Nigeria, the actual architecture of the security state, and how might people go about, how might Nigerian society go about building meaningful local policing and self-defense units that could coordinate with the federal government while still being accountable to the local area? You mentioned that the concern is the regional police, they might only then sort of protect interests of an ethnicity or a minority group in an area. So is there a way that one could create local policing units, local security, that could coordinate on the federal level with the intended goal of actually providing security for a region as opposed to a specific group, or only benefiting one at the expense of another?
Thank you for your question, Ian. Can you hear me? Because it's very cloudy here and it's about train, so the network is actually been affected. Well, actually,
I want to raise my hand.
What I'm thinking about Nigeria having local policing is like the model of the United Kingdom. You have community policing actually, but they are not.
I know, yeah.
I don't know, but yes, but the issue of states or regions having their own police, like I said, if you understand the political terrain very well in Nigeria, everything is politicized. Everything you know in Nigeria is politicized. It is, you will hear the state governors, instead of it to be patriotic and nationalist in their own approach, they become sectionist leaders. Look at the Benue state, the way he was going about telling the whole world any crime that happened, you say it is a particular group of people that have caused. That were the criminals. It was recent that his attackers were arrested, and the Nigerian police force said there was no single Fulani herdsman there. So you see the danger, like I said, no matter how you think of it now, Nigeria is very politicized, both nationally and even regionally. So if one thing, state police or regional police, definitely, like I said, it will be used, one, to advance a particular interest. Look at the case of Boko Haram, or the case of Niger Delta militancy, or even the case of IFOB now in the East, or the issue, I don't know if many of you was aware of OPC in the western part of the country. These are secessionist groups. These are the groups that don't believe in Nigeria. These are the groups, at least we know that in the Niger Delta, there was even a governor that was impeached because of his involvement with the Niger Delta militants. So if you have local police well-trained in the policing, it is easy to turn them into defense forces, which means that allowing that to happen, it is possible that the politicians, the governors, will turn that into a secessionist militia force. How can we contend with this in Nigeria? Election issue, locally. If you have local police, a governor is in control with of the police. CP Lawrence Alobi will tell you, I believe, if a governor is in control of the police, no party will be, it is likely that no party will be even allowed to campaign, talk less of winning election in that state. So the advantage and the disadvantage of having police controlled by state governments, controlled by regional, by the group of state governments in a particular region, is more dangerous to the national security than not having it. What we need is to have local, community police. The second thing is that the police should develop a strategy that, because these criminals, they are locals. And before now, mostly the junior police officers, other ranks and file, majority of them are posted to their own areas. They know the people know them. During the native authority police, if there's a crime here, they will quickly fish out the criminal because they know them. So for me, even though it is a political debate and even though the Constitution may allow it, it is one thing to have the law, it is another thing practically for the law to be effective. Thank you very much. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, Dr. Yakubu. And I'm very curious about CP Alobi's comments on this issue too. Do you have any response to Dr. Yakubu's points? Are there anything that are there things that you disagree with or agree with? Or is there another perspective that we're not looking at that we should be looking at?
Hello. I'd like to say something. Hi, Jumo. This is Doug Burton.
Okay. Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, nobody.
Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, no one's talking about gun
control.
Hello. In Nigeria. Gun control laws.
Can you hear me?
Very counterproductive. They should be reversed. Okay. Someone else wants to talk, so I'll be quiet.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me, please? Can I come in?
Yes, you can come in, Mr. Alobi, and then Doug would go after.
Okay, thank you very much. He raised some issues. You see, under Nigerian Constitution, 9 constitutions are amended. Police is under exclusive list. Exclusive list is purely the federal government has power to act. So the police and security is primarily under the federal government that takes all issues under the exclusive list. The issue of whether state police or regional police and how do we control these extreme militias or the private groups that have emerged, these non-state actors. You see, policing, like I said, in Nigeria is under the exclusive list. I believe the way things are now today, the federal police is overwhelmed because of various factors. One, they lack manpower. 2, they are not being funded. 2, they are ill-trained, ill-equipped. And Nigeria is said to be about 200 million people. And the police is less than 450,000 people. And look at the vast nature of our country. So the issue of regional effort, which I said earlier, to come together, if they come together not as police, the federal government could still have the Nigerian police force, but there should be some effort to complement effort of the police. And the police, which is now the primary agency, Charge of Internal Security, can now supervise and control and regulate the activities of these groups. Dr. Yakubu talked about community policing. Community police, the philosophy of engaging public engagement in the crime prevention, crime detection of the communities. Community policing does not mean that the community will take over the policing. No. Community policing is just getting the community involved in their community and neighborhood, involved in crime prevention, and they have to they work with the police public partnership in partnership with the police to ensure that law and order is being maintained, crime is being prevented, and there's public peace and security. So community policing at itself cannot be said to what will address this problem. What would address this problem is that what structure do we have on ground? The structure today in the country cannot adequately address the security problem. That's why people are talking about that. One, the police and others are overwhelmed. So this arrangement of getting the people now, find some regional groups, like I'm going to call for instance, the Abubagu, the unit community now who are now be deployed in the local communities. But they will be there, they supervise the police. Not that it's a different police force, because the Constitution says, other section 214 says that there shall be no other police force except Nigerian police force. But the point is that these organizations are going to complement the police, and they work in hand with the police. So the issue of state police, original police, for me, for now, I've said earlier, like Dr. Yakubu said, our governors see themselves as emperors. Our governors see that they're not there, they're not concerned about service. And again, we have not been able to develop that patriotic spirit of, say, Nigerianism, Nigerian consciousness, to work for the good of Nigeria, for the benefit of Nigeria. But they're either in terms of religious interest, parochial interest, ethnic interest. So until we develop that consciousness of thinking Nigeria and believing in Nigeria and work for the interest of Nigeria, then our politicians will be. They may have they will now have a perception that looks at things from the national perspective. But now, if you put the private security or state security, it will create more problems. Like I said, elections, they organize people to hijack ballot boxes, and if anybody who's opposed, they have arrest and detain them. So I think for now, Nigeria is not right for state police. But the regional arrangement is the way, because right now the present system is not working. And the movie alternative, what next to do to solve the problem? The problem that can be solved now, like I said earlier, this regional arrangement, regional cooperation among the state of the contiguous state can come together, put their resources together, work together, and then ensure that their states are safe and secure. Because the governors also swore out to ensure that the peace and security of their state is guaranteed. And they cannot just leave things to the federal government alone, because the federal government is overwhelmed. So in the state, governors have a duty, a responsibility. And when they decide to come together, even globally, you have global cooperation, regional cooperation, and national. So the state that can come together and work together with better understanding, drawing together their resources for training, for equipment, and for effective policy of their states and of their region. I think that's the most important thing. I also want to comment on the issue of the media. In Nigeria, the media believes that there's the slogan that bad news sells. Bad news sells. How can concern with bad news? We know something is bad. Why give it to the public? Under the Constitution, the media is supposed to educate, inform, and enlighten the people. But the media here most of them are privately owned media. And they all have to look for money to maximize profit. They don't apply the principle of peace journalism. They're not concerned about the peace. They don't look at the security implication, the peace implication of what their news item. What security implication of their news item? Will it promote peace? Will it endanger peace? Will it go for security of the country and security of the environment? They're all there to say that's when they said bad news sells. They don't care. They don't have empathy. What their concern is how to make money and sell their newspapers. So I think our media should ensure they change their perception about, they apply what they call peace journalism. That whatever major item they want to publish to the public, what is what import is it to the peace and security of the country? Will it promote peace? Will it endanger peace? Or will it be a threat to peace and security? So I think if this is done, the issue of sensational news media or fake news and so forth, it will be checked. And they've not been concerned. If everybody is concerned about the peace and security of our country, Section 24 of the Constitution provides that it's a constitutional duty of every Nigerian citizen to contribute to assist security agencies in terms of law and order. But in this country, most people are concerned with their rights and freedom. Nobody is concerned about his obligation to society. like ROSU, instead of social contract, the citizens have a duty and the government has a duty. The government has a duty to provide security. That is, but the citizens also have a role to contribute because the citizens are the prime beneficiaries of a safe environment. But in this country, people emphasize more on their rights and freedom. They don't emphasize about their rights, their duties and obligation. So until when this is addressed, that perception should be changed. And as security agencies also know that they are there to serve. They're not there for regime protection. They're there to protect. The one here they talk about presidency. We do not vote president. We vote Mr. President. So Mr. President don't want to say presidency. Presidency is just the office. The office is the Mr. President that was elected, and Mr. President that should be addressed, and President should be seen about our problem. So when I hear people talk about presidency was not elected. Presidency is not any individual. Presidency is just the entire structure under the Mr. President. So the point I'm saying is that one is that our media should adopt peace journalism, and they should always look at the second implication of whatever that these attempt to publish. And our federal government also should know that from the way it is that they should allow the state to form some what they can do to come together to ensure that the strength and security of their region. Because the governors also sworn an oath, and our politicians should be more patriotic. Our politicians should lead the way to eschew ethnicity, religious bias, or particular king, and nepotism. You know, these are things that have been causing problems. And because, again, the police, which is supposed to be principal agency in internal security, they are not well funded, not well equipped. And again, the police should be insulated from political control. The police is unnecessarily controlled by political control. It's a threat to internal security. So if the police is insulated from political control, the police is given the power to act, and it's well funded and well empowered, then I think he cannot perform optimally the good of the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Doug, you wanted to say something about gun control. I'm very curious to hear what you want to say, especially seeing that, you know, we get a lot of arms being trafficked from the Sahel, and there is border porosity. So I'm very curious about your thoughts about gun control and how this will affect or implicate the security crisis in Nigeria.
Thank you, Jumo. The fact is that the single legislative change that could save tens of thousands of lives in the next couple of years is to change the gun control laws to allow threatened citizens to defend themselves by legally purchasing or creating their own firearms. The fact is that the ownership of guns is restricted currently to three groups: the armed insurgencies. It doesn't matter where they get their arms. Yes, probably from Libya. The other group is the authorities, the police and the military. So the police and the military want to monopolize control of the use of weapons. But the third group are the armed bandits, the criminal gangs that are marauding in at least 12 states. They have all the weapons they want. It is obvious in Nigeria that if you're a cow herder, whatever your ethnicity is, if you're herding cows, you can walk through town holding an AK-47 assault rifle and no one will disarm you. These armed militia bands, whether they are herding cattle or in some cases, whether they're not herding cattle, but taking refuge in the forest and kidnapping people on the highways, they are an unpoliced, unprosecuted, unconstrained armed group in the country. The very least that a non-functioning police constabulary should do is allow citizens to freely and legally own weapons so that they can defend their houses and their communities.
Thank you very much, Doug. Would anyone like to respond to that? Does anyone have any comments, questions, agreements, disagreements? I'm very curious.
Yes, I want to comment. Can I comment?
Of course.
Yeah, you see, in Nigeria, Nigeria Arms Act, there are 3 calibers of arms under the Firearms Act. One is the den gun, which is not prohibited. The second one is the double barrel or single barrel, which the Commissioner of Police, the IG, can authorize and issue license for individual gaming. And then you have again the third one is the prohibited firearm, which is the pistol, the AK-47, and so forth. Pump. These are all prohibited firearms. And nobody is authorized to carry prohibited firearms without a license. Now those who carry AK-47, whether it is herdsmen, whether it's Boko Haram, whether it is IPOB, whether it is prohibited. The challenge is that we have weak institutions. Like talk about legislation. Legislation alone cannot change issues without enforcement. A law that is made as not enforced is a law that is not enforced. It's not valid to man and society. So the point is that we have weak institutions, and then those who, if our firearms is strictly enforced, no man should have carried a firearm like AK-47 and go around in the country without being arrested and protected. Because we have weak institutions, and sometimes we turn our hand because we are parochial and ethnic bias, or we see things, we turn our eyes to one side. Mr. President has given order that those who carry firearms, like who carry AK-47, should be shot at, like maybe if they're like the headsmen. But we might have such incidents. People have been carrying firearms everywhere. IPOB carrying firearms everywhere. You know, so it is when there's effective control and enforcement that these laws become of value to man and society. And again, it's the issue of arms, control of arms. What, like he suggested, the last said that the nation where every private citizen can bear their arms and protect themselves. Today in America, the armed culture is a threat to the security of American society. The arms, because we can go to the shop and buy them, which is a problem. The arms control is a problem. So here in Nigeria, we have to do something to ensure that mop out all illegal arms in the wrong of unauthorized persons. When I was in charge of our CP Federal Relations and the Force Secretary, I wrote a memo to my IG, that Mr. Logo, Tababa Logo, that we should establish task force and recovery of illegal arms. That was done. But the arms will be recovered from across the country and be brought to Abuja where they be destroyed properly at this committee headed by the Minister of Defense. So I think it is issue of ways how to make these hands in the hands of illegal people. The police and others will form task forces and recover these illegal arms. Because these arms that give the criminal the effrontery, the courage to do what they're doing. So if illegal arms are being recovered from the hands of unauthorized persons, it will minimize crime in society.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alobi. I believe we have rather a hand up from Dr. Yakubu who wants to respond. So this is good because this is the conversation that we want.
Thank you. Well, yes, thank you very much for giving me way. CP Lawrence Alobi has said a lot, and to buttress some of his points, that if although already it is already in our laws that citizens can actually own non-prohibited firearms, and he has described it already. I think individuals have arms. The problem, like he pointed out, of having organizing a group to defend themselves, in the end, they'll also become militias and the police will be overwhelmed. That is one major problem. I think what we need to do in Nigeria for internal security is that we must support the police. Everybody should support the police, because when we talk about internal security, it is within the remit of the Nigerian police. And Nigerian police are actually up to the task. The problem is poor funding, lack of training, and even lack of support from the Nigerians themselves and from the government itself. For a very long time, Nigerian police has been undermined, especially during the military regime. They were underfunded because they see them as the forces who can be loyal to the civil authority and counter them when there is a coup attempt. So I think the way forward, just like I said, is to support the police, fund them properly, train them properly, and then let them themselves, in conjunction with the communities, set up the community policing units so that the community policing units can assist the police. To show you how police, how capable the Nigerian police is, it was just yesterday, somebody I've worked with in the office of the Vice President Jonathan, as at that time, Barrister Ahmed Gulak was killed by criminals in Imo on his way from his host, the governor, to the airport. Today, according to the report, the Nigerian police have already identified and neutralized his killers. What they have not done actually is to investigate, and I believe that the Nigerian police will investigate and fish out who actually ordered the killing of Ali Gulak, because it's not just the criminal that killed him. There must be somebody from behind the scene. So the Nigerian police is actually capable, but the problem is that it is underfunded, and even the personnel that they need to employ more police, especially at the junior ranks, so that they can be posted to their own communities. And I can tell you that people within the community, they know the criminals. Only that sometimes they don't have faith in the people, the police that are posted from there, to their own area, because they don't know how they are going to handle the information. But if you have locals, they will checkmate criminality, because this criminality starts from petty crimes. And when petty criminals become emboldened to the point of acquiring arms, they can do the worst. They can join terrorist groups, they can join other militia groups, and then start to terrorize the whole society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yakubu. And Ian really raises a very interesting point in the chat, suggesting that maybe an in-between solution could be like a civilian joint task force, as we see in the Northeast, and with security forces really collaborating with local hunters as well as vigilante groups to help with the Boko Haram fight. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts, Dr. Siegel, and then Lawrence Alobi, about a possible joining of a task force that is an in-between grassroots movement as well as a movement from the central government in trying to tackle the security crisis. Dr. Siegel, please.
Thanks, Jumo. Well, I think the collaboration between the Army and state police and community based armed groups, like we saw with the CJTF, has value, at least in the short and medium term. As I had said earlier, part of the challenge is to ensure there's enough coverage, security coverage, so that once these armed groups are defeated in battles, that they don't return. That's what really builds up trust by communities towards government, that the government can protect them. And I think there is a valid argument that the Nigeria security forces are too small. There's 370,000 police, 100,000 armed army personnel, and for a population of 200 million, and with the challenges with the borders, you could argue that it's too small. I think the 4% of government spending goes to the military. But we're talking about $2 billion annually that goes to the armed services. And so I think while, supporting these sort of joint community security force initiatives makes sense, we need to do more. I mean, there needs to be more transparency. There needs to be more accountability of what's happening with the resources that are already going into the security sector. There's lots of stories of corruption and misdirection of these resources. We've heard from several people about the poorly equipped and poorly trained nature of Nigerian security forces. You know, Nigeria is not a poor state. It's not a fragile state. There's no need there's no need for these forces to be so poorly trained and equipped. So I think we need to, before you funnel more money into the security sector, you need to have some more oversight over why the money that's already there hasn't generated stronger forces. And that holds for the police, that holds for the military. There have been I think there have been 4 or 5 major national commissions looking at police reform in Nigeria. And they've come up with great recommendations, but they don't get implemented. They don't get implemented because there's not the political will to follow that through. And so I think as part of this conversation, we need to be honest that, there's a real need for police reform in Nigeria. Many Nigerians are fearful of the police. And that's, the whole NSARS protest movement was about the bad experiences that many Nigerians, especially young Nigerians, have had. And so, yes, over the long term, you want your police and armed forces to be the only ones responsible for security. In the near term, because of limitations and capacity, yes, you need to have some sort of joint arrangements with community-based groups. But this needs to be brought together with a lot of accountability, because there are numerous examples in Nigeria and elsewhere where these community-based armed groups, without accountability, become part of the problem, and they become a force upon themselves. They become a predatory unit, and they begin to extort, and it becomes a part of the security challenge. And so I don't see it as a good long-term solution because of that weakness, but certainly I think in the near term, when you're needing to surge your capacity, and I do think they're a good example. There is a good example there in Borno State with what happened with the CJTF. I think it's a viable and reasonable approach here in the near term.
Thank you, Dr. Siegel. So, we've discussed intelligence, the importance of intelligence, the importance of peace journalism, the importance of security sector reform, police reform. And the last question I would like to pose to each of you as our panel or our panelists is, how can state security outfits better coordinate in sharing information between bodies, agencies, media, as well as local community leaders? And, how would a knowledge warehouse work in a Nigerian context? If we were to have like a database of where intelligence funnels into a big warehouse, how would it work in especially seeing that we have a very politicized nation? I'm very, very curious, given each of your expertise as academic journalists, lawyers, law enforcement, policy practitioners, journalists. How do you think this would work in a Nigerian context? How can we better coordinate, not just top down, but also bottom up? So we can start with Mr. Alobi and then go across, and then I can open it up to the public with their questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Juma, for carrying out this coordination very, very effectively. So before I go to that, I respond to your question, please let me just the issue. The two panelists have discussed about the issue of police and the military. You see, policing functions is quite different from military operations. In the United States of America, there's an act of parliament that prohibits the military from getting engaged in internal security and policing. But today in Nigeria, the military has been overused in internal security and policing, invariably militarizing our policing and our law enforcement. In the country, there's not only the police and the military who are the security agencies. We have the state security services, we have the immigration, we have the custom, we have the prisons, we have the civil defense, we have the road safety, and a host of others. But the point is that the police, which is taproot of internal security, which is the principal agency towards security, have been so neglected for too long a time. And this is the consequence of what is happening now, just like a tree. If the taproot of a tree is weak, other supportive roots cannot hold a tree. Other agencies are just supportive in terms of internal security. The police, which is supposed to be taproot and internal principal agency, is so weakened. It's almost really like it's helpless. It's overwhelmed. They may not accept it, but that's the reality, the truth. So the issue of you asked about collaboration, synergy. The point is that in Nigeria, there's no law that compels a chief executive of any security agency to share intelligence or share information with another agency. Everyone want to put on Mr. President is the best, is the best performer. That's why there's that rivalry. Rather than promoting cooperation and collaboration, everybody want to be, I'm not sure, I'm the best performer, I'm the best, and so forth. So it is when they will realize that they are like fingers of one hand, working for one country, one government, and for the people of one country. If they realize that it is not supposed to be competition or competitive, it's supposed to be collaboration and synergy. They should share information, share intelligence. And I want to know that there's difference. I want to let you know there's a difference between information and intelligence. Intelligence is already is a processed information that have been processed and evaluated and should to be called intelligence. You share intelligence, you don't gather intelligence. You share intelligence. What you gather information. Information that you now process for it to become intelligence. No, for the various agencies to work together, they need to know that they are working for a common purpose, common vision, common action, unity of action, and there should be no issue of rivalry. And the government said there should be a law where they should limit the involvement of the military in policing and law enforcement, because it's not too good for our democracy. It's just like militarizing our law enforcement. You militarize law enforcement, you are militarizing democracy. So the police should be well equipped, like Dr. Yakubu said, well funded, well trained, and empowered to perform their function effectively and efficiently. But because of this, the police association is very, very, very weak. And that is why, because it is weak, that's why they cannot enforce the law. They cannot even confront. They don't have the armament to confront those who are illegal, those who are carrying out violent crimes. So until the government realizes that they need to do the needful by making the police what it should be to be able to address effectively problems of internal security and problems of violent crime in this country. So this is what I think should be done. The military is supposed to be concerned with external aggression. But the military is now being involved in Section 217 of the Constitution talks about the military can come in aid of the police. But the way